Welcome back. This is the camp prior to Gettysburg. As you can see, I've already set my entire army up. The reason for this is the entire process took me several hours to tweak to my satisfaction, um, and I just didn't see a way to cut that down into a reasonable time frame. So I figured I would just go over the changes I did, and that would save everyone a lot of time. So my first corps is a pure artillery corps. This is only going to come in on day 3 and probably day 4, assuming I don't trip the flag accidentally. So this is there's only one unit here that wasn't brand new. This is basically all of my artillery that I have that's just sitting around doing nothing. And this will be used to inflict casualties on day 3 and day 4 without basically the only thing it's going to cost me is supply. These units are basically just filler. I'm going to use them throughout the battle to get the right amount of units to come in other corps. They would show up on day 4, but honestly, for that battle, the 3-inch just isn't useful. It's just mostly a waste of ammunition. I might fire them a little bit just to get their firearms stat up, but it's so hard to get all of the Union artillery to be able to allow you to bring these in close enough to actually do any damage that they aren't going to be too useful. So our second corps is another standard infantry corps. I didn't bother finding a lieutenant general for this. They're doing more useful things, and these units barely fight. Really, I mean, I'll swap them in as necessary, but really only like day 3 or 4 are they really gonna even potentially do anything. And I've got some spread cavalry, extra yard unit, and this is just a filler unit to give me a full corps. I'm going to need it for to get certain units to deploy later on. So our third corps is going to be the second wave of reinforcements on day 1. It's pretty well set up. There's a few newer units in it. The important part here is these first 9 units are going to come in, and then the second set of reinforcements are going to be 8 additional units, and I'm bringing some snipers and some cavalry, so they arrive a little faster, and then the rest is going to be some artillery to just bombard the Union forces in the town. This is one of those cases where you actually get 2 more units, or you can get 2 more units than the deploy slot shows. Maybe it's 3. I don't remember exactly. The supply wagons all take up slots in these, so I don't remember. Getting the exact numbers right is a little confusing, but you'll notice I have these extra units here, which are all here because even though the deploy slot shows 15, it's all percentages, so if you bring in 24, then you get more men than you would otherwise. I think if you only bring 15, it's something you get like 12 units or something like that, versus the full 17 or 18 if you do it this way. I guess over here, so I put in about 2,000 worth of veterans into all of my infantry units, and brought them all to 1,200. It's maybe a little overkill for this battle. There's only 1 or 2 phases where the infantry really does a whole lot, but it lets me get all the men into the field and work on stats, and I think this is going to be useful for later battles, since I think we're going to be well under scaling and perhaps needing to go up slightly anyways. Same way with the snipers, I went up to 375. Alright, sorry. So 2,000 veterans, rest recruits. So we went up to 375 with the snipers. I don't think I'm ever going to get enough scoped Whitworths to be able to equip these, so I'm just going to bring them up to the size since I have enough of normal Whitworths, and they'll do a little bit more that way. So we also brought the artillery up to 10 for these long-range units. We're using 8 over here just because that maximizes the amount of units I can get in terms of filling up all the slots that I need to fill. Our 4th Corps is going to be the first attack wave. I've front-loaded all of my artillery, so it comes in first, along with some snipers, and then a little bit of infantry. And this is another situation where with the percentages, even though it says you can bring 20, you want to bring 24. It'll get you 2 extra units, and these guys are just filler to make sure that happens. They're also going to be useful on day 3 and day 4 to run out to the vision point and run to a couple of other places where you're just going to take fire, and they're going to eat the artillery for me to do that. The other thing worth mentioning is in terms of rifles, basically all of my 2-star units are using Harper's Ferries, all of my 1-star units are using Enfields. There's some exceptions. I've got some Lorenzes in service still. I did end up selling all of my Reboards, Palmettos, Mississippis, and MJ&Gs. I didn't really have enough of them to field a full unit, and I didn't feel like spending more money on buying those was really worth it to equip a unit with, so I just sold them off and bought Enfields instead, and I bought a few Lorenzes as well. Okay, so that's the 4th Corps. 5th Corps is going to be my force for fighting at the Round Tops. I moved up the 24 pounders to 11. I didn't want to go up to 12 because it was starting to cost too much in veterans, and I didn't want to lose the 3rd star. So I only took them up to 11. This gives me a little bit more firepower, but isn't quite as expensive. In the next battle, I should be able to up these to 12 with using recruits. Artillery are very expensive to put veterans in at this stage, so if you can get the stats up and just put recruits in, it's going to be much cheaper. So, yeah, all of the counter batteries are up to 10. I could go up to 12, but I wanted to be able to fill out this core, and I want to be able to move in 20 pounders later if I can't, if I get enough. Potentially, I can get something like 20 or so out of this battle, which is going to go a long way towards helping me outfit more of my units. Because the 10 pounders are all right, but they're really starting to fall off this stage, as you're going to see when trying to shoot artillery out of good fortifications. Okay, the other thing of note, standard cover XP General, double Speed General to get those units in the flank in position a little bit faster. I could probably afford to go Speed Cover, but if we get, I'm going to go with the double Speed. I'm going to swap this guy out later, because after that first phase, the speed doesn't really matter. And I'm going with a Speed Cover General here for the Round Tops to get the units there a little faster, but I want the cover bonus, so I don't want to have to keep running my General back and forth to try and ferry units in, so I'm not going to... The Speed Aura is just not as useful here. And I have a little bit left over. I put basically all of my men into the field. I'm leaving a little bit left over so I can cap off any artillery units that take too much damage and are close to losing a gun. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but there's a few scenarios where you're probably going to get hit, so just useful to have a little extra there, and that those 300, 400 men aren't going to do me much good anywhere else. And I have a decent chunk of supply left. I'd prefer if that was closer to like 200,000, because going 3 or 4 days, we're going to be spending a lot of supply. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to mention? In terms of reputation, I took the 3,000 Enfields. It's worth about 66k. These are worth, I think, about 44. So I'd rather have the extra 1,000 rifles. And the difference between, like, the Richmonds are better than the Enfields, but not enough so that I'd prefer it. I could actually buy them right now, but I want to save that reputation for a buy later on. I have calculated it out, and I should have about 90 reputation going into Washington, which will allow me some pretty good flexibility in terms of, do I just want extra morale, or do I want to be able to buy men or rifles or whatever else. So that's why I'm leaving this a little higher than I normally would. Put the last point, politics. At this point, it'd be really nice to actually have, for this battle specifically, it'd be nice to have a few points in logistics. If I did it again, I might pull points out of training. Not sure. But we are where we are. It worked out all right. So, okay, that is my army, and I will be going into the first day of Gettysburg.